We just went through one of the most unprecedented weeks in election history with an assassination attempt and a candidate dropping out of the race for the first time since 1968. And a lot of people are wondering what that will mean for housing. And I'm going to share that with you next. So if you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team to go deeper into this data, you can do so with a link in the comments. We're coming out of an 8-day stretch where we had some unprecedented things happen when it came to presidential election news, with an assassination attempt on a former president and one of the candidates dropping out of the race after receiving 14 million votes and being ready to accept the party's nomination. So obviously that uncertainty can lead to uncertainty in other areas when it comes to the economy, housing being one of them. And what I wanted to talk about here is historically what we know about elections. So there's some people out there that I wouldn't agree with their take. Glenn Kelman, and we're going to put this up on the screen here. He's the CEO of Redfin. He came out and said that housing is just in a funk. Even though interest rates have dropped 20 to 30 basis points over the past few weeks, we have seen home buyers still on the sidelines. The real issue might just be the election. We've talked to so many home buyers who say they're going to wait to see what happens in this election. It is gripping the national psyche, as you may have heard. And that comment I could not disagree more with, and other people are echoing the same thing. When you hear these comments from the Redfin CEO, from what the real issue might be for home buyers, and he talks about rates and rates coming down a little bit, what we're seeing is one of the most rapid rate increases we've seen in decades over a short period of time. So that obviously has a lot to do with what we're seeing in housing. And we're also seeing inventory grow and rates settle in. So I don't agree at all that it has anything to do with the election. It's what happened well prior to this election cycle even getting going. And what we're going to do here is give you the real data, because there's so much of this clickbait stuff out there now that it can cloud people's judgment when making a big and important financial decision like buying or selling a property. So we've got two charts here. Nick's going to put them up. And what the charts show you is what's happened in the year after a presidential election when it comes to home prices and when it comes to sales activity. So the first one we're going to go over is home prices. 7 out of the last 8 presidential elections, you're going to see this on the chart here, home prices went up the year after the election. Most notably in 2020, we saw prices go from $296,700 to $350,700. That's the median sale price based on the U.S. annual median sale price, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the only year they went down was from 2008 until 2009. And we all know why that happened. If you didn't, we saw a major financial crisis that year, and that was one of the few times we've seen prices decline. So that price decline had nothing to do with the election. And yes, we're having many hotly contested elections as of late. Look at the last 2 presidential elections leading up to this one. And those were hotly contested. There was a lot of noise about the election cycle, and we saw home prices go up the year afterwards during both of those post-election calendar years. So that's one piece of data I want to dispute. The second one is what happens to home sales after presidential elections. So 9 out of the last 11 presidential elections, we saw the number of homes that sold, they went up. And this is according, again, to the Housing and Urban Development Department of the U.S. government. The years they went down were in 1980 and 1988 because we saw high inflation coming out of the 1970s. So it's something that caused that to cripple here. Most recently, we saw in 2020, 5.64 million homes that sold. In 2021, 6.12. Let's go back to pre-pandemic just to give some perspective. We went from 5.45 home sales to 5.51. So there is historical data here that shows the election isn't going to have a lot of bearing on what actually happens in the market. Now, what it does do is it creates uncertainty when you have people like Glenn Kelman making these comments that aren't based in reality. They ignore economic data, and it gets people nervous. It gets them worked up. And you've got to be very careful when you hear these things, because what this tells me, if I'm thinking about selling a home or buying a home, is we're still seeing incredible demand. We're still seeing multiple offers. We're still seeing prices go up. Year to date through the month of June, prices are up 6.7% on the average in Pennsylvania from the previous year. So we're seeing that happen. We're seeing inventory increase. It's up 23.2% in supply through the end of June from this time last year. So we're seeing that there's data here supporting the housing market is doing fine. So there's still demand in the market. What we also know is there are going to be buyers that get scared off by all these things. And if you're a buyer looking to buy a home, there may be an opportunity to get a fair price on a property and get the house you actually want while other people are consumed with the news cycles. We've got the actual data to show you what's really happening, and that's the stuff you want to follow in these election cycles. So if you got questions, you're concerned, you're confused, you don't know what to do, click on the link in the comments to schedule a call with our team.